Okay, we're recording now. We're beginning, and here we go. Welcome. I'm Edwin Rutch, the founding director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and I'd like to welcome you to this Empathy Cafe, which is for mutual support around the COVID-19 pandemic. And our intention, I wanted to just let you know, our intention is in this cafe is to create a culture of empathy, which means for each person to be able to authentically express themselves and openly express themselves and to feel heard and understood to their satisfaction. And that we do this mutually. And we do this in the empathy circle, which uses mutual empathic listening. And like just give a short overview of what we're going to be doing. We're going for 2 hours, and we're going to start off with short participant intros. We'll go into how to do the empathy circle and just a short review of the topic, and then we'll go into a couple of breakout rooms, and then we'll go for about an hour and 20 minutes or so, hour and a half in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back to the full circle at the end for sort of a debrief. So to begin with, we just want to go around and introduce ourselves, just your name, where you're located, and maybe any organization you're part of. And Bill, could you just select people to?
Sure.
Well.
Okay. I'll go around and I'll model it. My name is Bill Filler. I'm a retired special education teacher. I've been working with Edwin in the empathy tent and trying to build a culture of empathy. And I'm also part of the XR work group, empathy work group. Zach, could you introduce yourself? You're muted.
After I figure out the microphone, there we go. Okay. Hi, my name is Zach. I'm Bill's son. I am living in Minneapolis right now, and my dad's been telling me a lot of great stuff about what you've all been doing here and invited me to join today. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
Great. Thanks, Zach. James, H6899. There we go. Yeah.
I'm from Milton Keynes, England. I run a music label, Rainbow Sonic. So check out my Facebook page. I also do music journalism and music production. So Rainbow Sonic on Facebook.
Great. Okay, Bob.
I'm Bob Brown from Thousand Oaks, California, USA. And I'm an empathy team member and a fellow human being.
Yeah, well said. Okay, Dean.
Hi there, I'm Dean from Plymouth, United Kingdom. I'm a charity worker and I'm running Plymouth XR, and I've been doing a lot of rebellion training, so just trying to catch up on as many things as possible during this quiet time. Thank you.
Great, welcome. Alison.
Hi, I'm Alison from London, United Kingdom. I actually did the bulk of my NVC training over on the west coast of Canada. And I'm not involved in any other kind of formal offshoot organizations per se, but I've been doing a lot of work with measures to reduce youth street violence here, in particular knife crime, which is rampant in my local London borough. Thank you.
Great, thanks for coming. Stefan, are you with us yet, or are you still? We're doing introductions.
Hi.
There we go. Hi.
My name's Stefan, and I've worked with Edwin in the past on empathy circles, and I'm happy to be here. And I'm here with some of my colleagues from the healthcare field.
Great, thank you. Martha.
Hi, I'm Martha. I'm based in Cork in Ireland, and I am involved with XR locally and nationally, and with the empathy cycle team.
Great, thanks, welcome. Nitu.
Hi, I'm Neetu. I'm a former medical graduate. I worked with Dr. Carlson and a few others, and I have some involvement in psychiatry. So I'm really excited about the Empathy Circle and what it can bring for my future, as well as helping others and contributing during COVID-19.
Great, thank you. Ben.
Right, give you the wrong one. Hold on a second. Try again.
Yeah, I'm Ben from Sheffield, UK. Member of Sheffield XR. We had an online meeting on Monday, and I successfully hosted a 10-minute empathy circle. Yeah.
Great. Welcome, Ben. Carolina.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Karo. You can call me Karo. I'm in Poland, Central Europe. I am a member of XR movement, global support team, and empathy team.
Great. Thank you, Carolina. Divya. You're muted.
Hi, I'm Divya. I live here in New York. I'm going to be an intern in psychiatry and work with Dr. Carlson sometime soon at Brookdale Hospital. I'm really happy to be a part of this empathy team.
Great. We're happy to have you. Saiful.
Hello, I'm Saiful. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I was an extern at Brookdale Hospital last year. Now I'm working with the psychiatrist in his office.
Great. Well, welcome. Glad to have you. And Sharman.
Hey, is that the interaction part? Sorry, I missed.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
okay.
We're just introducing ourselves. That's all. Quick
Hi,
introduction.
Okay. Hi, good morning. So I'm an international medical graduate from Bangladesh, and I worked in pediatrics before, and also I completed recently a psychiatric externship at Brookdale Hospital. And right now I'm working to get a residency spot.
Great, welcome. And Edwin, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thanks everyone. And does anybody need a refresher on how to do the empathy circle? Just checking if everybody's already done it. Oh, we have one. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I'll just give a very short introduction. So in this process, we're going to divide into three groups. And then one person will be the speaker. They're going to select who they speak to, and you can speak a little bit, and then you pause, and you let the person that's listening to you reflect back their understanding of what you have said. And then you kind of check, did they understand you? If not, you kind of can repeat in maybe other words what you were saying. And if they understood you, then you speak some more, and you share maybe an idea or two, and they will reflect back again what you've said. And we just keep going like that, and for a time allotted, which is going to be 5 minutes per turn. And then once the 5 minutes is up, or you have nothing else to say, you can say, I feel fully heard. Then the listener becomes the speaker, the active or the speaker, and they select someone in the group to speak to. And that person, you speak, and that person reflects back. And then after that turn is over, then that listener becomes a speaker. We go around for the time allotted, which is going to be about an hour and a half. We're going to be in the circles. So the easiest way is just to, if you haven't done it before, just have the people who have done it, will start off, maybe speak to the facilitator, and then you'll just kind of see how it works, and it's pretty easy to pick up. And one tip is if you're the listener and somebody's speaking to you and they're saying a lot, and you feel like, oh, I'm not going to remember, kind of be able to reflect back, you can ask for a pause of what they said. Say, oh, can you just pause, let me reflect back that. So that's kind of the essence of it. We have 3 circles. The first one is going to be with Carolina facilitating. I'll be in that one. The second one is with Bill facilitating, and the third one is with Martha. And so I think we're ready to go into the circles.
I'm sorry, can I say something? Can we make a change? Somebody else will facilitate first room.
Okay, I can facilitate it. then
Okay.
I'll be in that room.
And
Do you feel okay? I know you're having a bit of a migraine, so.
yeah. So I'm thinking about dropping out even.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not necessary, because I see there is just 15 people, so I'm not necessary have to be here. So
Okay, yeah, that's fine if you're just needing to take
I'm
a break.
sorry
No,
to
it's
go
great
in
that,
such
yeah,
mess, but
it's fine. Yeah, I'll facilitate the
thank you.
first one. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
And,
then I think
I'm going to text you the password.
this meeting.
So thank you, and I will leave the meeting.
Okay, yeah. Hope you feel better, Carolina.
Yes.
Thanks for
Thank you.
stopping in. So, so yeah, I think we're ready. Maybe double check that we have everybody's in. We got a room. Okay, and then we have 5-minute turns. You can go up to 5 minutes. If it's a facilitator, we'll sort of explain all that and model it. So let's open the rooms, and our topic is just whatever's alive for you, around the COVID-19 topic. And there should be something you can click to join the room.
Dr. Carlson, you're muted.
Oh, I have Dr. Nichols joining on one of my iPads. She's trying to sit down here. I don't know why I was having so much difficulty getting her phone connected for some reason. If you could send her a link of the thing, maybe she can try it again on her phone, because I just sent her the wrong one.
There is someone in the other.
What I'm saying is she is using my other account, and but if you could just send her the link in a chat so that she could try it again on her phone, maybe.
It's not. Is it? Is she the one that's using your account? Is
Yeah,
that okay?
Yeah.
Dr. Carlson, I texted you the link. Can you send it to her?
Yeah, because somehow I was giving her the wrong one. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, are we okay to start then?
Yes.
Okay, so we can, does someone want to do the timekeeping, 5 minutes? Does anyone have okay, great, Charmin. So who would like to start? Maybe speak to me and just what's alive for you about what's going on with the pandemic, or whatever you'd like to talk about. And you can start with me, speak to me, and I can model it. Listening.
I can start if.
Okay, then sure, go ahead.
Okay. So there's another person who's not on this call named Marta, who's one of the Empathy Circle facilitators, and she had suggested that I find some other people who we could train up, and I was struggling, and I did think of some of you guys, some of the former externs, and it worked out. It seems like there's some synergy, and I'm just happy that she kept pushing me to try to think of somebody, and I think this has turned out to be beneficial for everybody. So
you really, it sounds like you feel excited that everyone's taking part here, and Martha had mentioned that you could train up some people, and people are showing up, and you're feeling pretty excited about it.
Yes. Let's see.
It's just a quick question. Is Sarah one of the people is that Sarah somebody I just saw somebody pop in, another, you don't know Sarah, do you?
Not that I'm
okay,
aware.
never mind. I'm doing a little bit of management too while I speak. So yeah, go ahead.
What's been great about since I've been doing the empathy circles, I've noticed it's productive in my own personal and in professional life. I haven't. I have yet to do one with my mother, which I think is the ultimate challenge for me to do an empathy circle with her, because well, for a variety of reasons. But I have done them with friends and godparents and coworkers, even coworkers that I've had issues with. So they're very. I found them to be very helpful. But I'm nervous about doing one with my mother. For sure.
Yeah, so you've been finding empathy circles beneficial, colleagues and others, but doing one with your mother makes you a bit nervous. You haven't done that yet. Sounds like that's sort of an intention, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but my face is flushed just thinking about it. So Charmin, Neetu, and Divya, and two other folks yesterday did an empathy circle. We did a brief one, and it was so deep. I mean, people were authentic. People expressed things that they would normally never have expressed, I think. And it was just wonderful that what the frame of the empathy circle allowed people to be able to express things and feel heard, and then other people, as they went along around the circle, to participate in that ongoing dialogue of understanding and growth, and it was a very rewarding time together.
Mm-hmm. So you did have an empathy circle with some of the staff, or I guess maybe the people here, and it just felt like a really rewarding, sort of a deeper conversation. You're just sort of outlining how some of the benefits of the empathy circle practice or active listening.
Yep. And unfortunately today, Dr. Scott, who's the chairman of the emergency department, and the CMO, Dr. Rose, sent me a text just a moment ago saying that unfortunately they could not attend today, but they did both want to, and they intend to try to join on Monday.
Mm-hmm. So some of the administrators had wanted to come but couldn't, and said they'll take part on Monday. So you're feeling maybe a little disappointed, but probably some understanding that they're busy.
Yeah, I'm not really disappointed. I'm excited that I'm pleasantly surprised that I was personally texted by the CMO saying he's sorry he can't come. So I think that actually says a lot, and so I'm optimistic, and then there's another person here joining who I don't think has participated before, Dr. Nichols, who is she doesn't know the process of the empathy circle quite exactly yet, but she'll get it for sure. I have no doubt.
Mm-hmm. So that was the time, but what I'll reflect the last part is that the CFO, I think it was
CMO
said they couldn't take part today, and you're not disappointed. You're kind of maybe a little bit excited that they're even texting you about that and interested in taking part. And yeah, and then so the other person in the call, who is that? Dr.
Nichols, but she's under my name.
Yeah, she's just learning this sort of process. So So you feel fully heard?
I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. Netu, can I speak to you?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, what do I want to say? Yeah, I feel some excitement that you were doing an empathy circle, or Stefan and others were doing an empathy circle, because that's really the idea, is to not just be waiting for here, but to do it sort of in practice on your own. So I was glad to hear that, and that it was meaningful too.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're really excited that we branched out on our own and did an empathy circle on our own initiative, and we're really fulfilled by doing that as well.
And what comes up to me is the training part of with the empathy circles. I've kind of focused on different areas. Last year was sort of focusing on conflict mediation between the political left and right. So we brought in Republicans and Democrats, bring them into empathy circles as a way of sort of healing the political divide. This last year, we've been focusing on working with Extinction Rebellion, the environmental group, and spreading the practice throughout that movement globally. And now with Stefan bringing this up in the healthcare, it's sort of a mental shift to work in the healthcare field.
Okay, so in the beginning, your purpose was to bring together the divide between political partisanism with right versus left, and then your goal was to address environmental issues with climate change and just advocating for different issues. And now another shift has occurred, and Dr. Carlson is helping you with this to address COVID-19 and how that's affecting our world.
Yeah, so each is sort of, it takes a different, it needs to be sort of structured a bit differently. And so just starting almost from scratch about the healthcare field. So I hope that, we can work together to create trainings that are more specifically addressing the importance of empathy in healthcare in general. So it takes some planning, some organization, and developing kind of more specific, tailored trainings. So I'm hoping, that we can sort of reach out and, create those trainings together.
So what I'm hearing is that with healthcare, it's like a whole new ball game. So you feel like you're starting from scratch because the organization is different, and it requires very specific training to understand how to address issues in healthcare. So you're trying to build the fundamental training strategies so that people can go out there and make a meaningful difference in empathy, using empathy.
But empathy and active listening was already kind of really got started with in the counseling therapeutic world with Carl Rogers. So it's already quite embedded in that community. And I've done, hundreds of interviews with empathy experts, and a lot of them have been physicians and people in the healthcare field. So I have a lot of connections already in the healthcare field, but I haven't kind of like focused on that and, kind of developed the training, specifically for the healthcare. So there's a lot to be done. And I just hope that we can, especially since Stefan is director of medical education or something like that, that we can get kind of educators together to really sort of make the case and, make it accessible for people in the healthcare field.
Okay, so you're saying that while you have a big network of physicians and healthcare workers because of where empathy really stems from, which is Carl Rogers, it's already embedded into the healthcare field. Really, your challenge is about making it more accessible to healthcare workers because they would really benefit from it. And this is where someone of Dr. Carlson's background would be really helpful because he's a director of education. So we could really use empathy to implement it more effectively into healthcare.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I will speak to Charmin. Okay. So I did try to bring a couple of people on board for this session, and unfortunately the challenges are similar for me, which is that a lot of healthcare workers right now are very busy and cannot contribute the time, as specifically at this time of the day because it's the middle of the day. So this is, I think, going to be an ongoing challenge in terms of gathering people for the empathy circle.
So it sounds like you are trying to make the empathy circle more and more inclusive. You are trying to invite as many as people, including your friends who are working the front line. But although they're interested, but they are not able to join because of their time constraint. But you're really optimistic about it.
Yes. And one of the things I want to say is that I completely agree that using empathy, these empathy circles can truly make people better at listening, which is so important, especially in healthcare, where how you feel and how your colleagues feel is so important in effectively carrying out your duties and as well as patient care. So I'm hoping to be part of that contribution.
So you found this platform it will be very good, especially for you and other people, whoever is joining, because it will bring out the quality of listening to people, and you think it's gonna impact the physician and the patient relationship as well.
Yes, and I believe that one of the goals of this empathy circle in healthcare could be to, since it's been used in the past to address political issues and environmental issues, that we could also address some of the challenges in healthcare when it comes to being heard and things that healthcare providers need from society, from the government, as well as, you know, what people need as well. So these are all issues that should enact change, and I think an empathy circle could be part of that.
So you think that this empathy circle, it worked in different issues in the past, including the political aspect as well. So you think that this is gonna help you to resolve some other issues, including healthcare problems, can be some societal problems, can be some problems regarding the government. So you think that this is gonna help so many people?
Yes. Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Okay, sure. So, okay, I would choose Divya.
Yeah.
You listen to me?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank everyone here for this amazing idea of empathy circle. I didn't have that much idea before I joined, and I was just thinking, actually, this empathy circle gonna work for me, to be honest. But I felt like I was able to express myself in such a way that I never did before.
So basically, you are grateful for this empathy circle to be there. Initially, you had your doubts whether it was going to work or not, but now you feel like it's making a huge difference in your life too.
Yes.
And you're grateful for it.
So especially what Neetu mentioned, like I felt like it's actually improving my capability of listening to people, because that is very important. If someone wants to be a psychiatrist, I should listen to my patients. Also practice in my family life. It's very important to listen, because nowadays people are very busy. They don't have time to listen.
So you basically feel that empathy circle is actually going to help you even when you become a psychiatrist in the future, to make you into a good psychiatrist. At the same time, not just professionally, but even in your personal life, it's helping you out. And everyone's having a very fast-paced life. So you think listening to one another is the key of the whole thing?
Yes. So, like I said, like I can feel that it's not just like this 2-hour period that I'm practicing subconsciously. I could feel like I'm also practicing it in my day-to-day life. So I think it's a very good platform. I also invited some of my friends. I wish they would join in future. They were not able to join today because of the time constraint, but I'm hoping they will be coming in future.
So apart from this 2 hours that we spend, you say that you're using this empathy circle even outside of that with your family and friends. And you try to encourage people to come and join this circle, but they are still a little hesitant, but you're going to be persuasive and continue to keep trying to bring them in. And you think it's a great platform.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. I'll choose Dr. Nicholson. Am I right? You might have to unmute your speaker. Can
I unmuted it remotely.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Yeah,
There you
I
go.
should be okay. Yeah.
you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I was looking forward to this empathy circle today because I was excited that it was going to be more than just the Brookdale crowd, and I'm going to hear stories from other parts of the country and everything. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's again the Brookdale circle because we have been listening to each other's stories for quite some time. I wanted a different perspective and to hear another person's story. So I wish the next time we have a meeting, I wish we had people outside of Brookdale to hear what they can bring to this meeting.
So it sounds like you're saying that you're looking for more, I want to say, international camaraderie and learning from different people around the community, the world. Besides your Brookdale family, you want to see what other people are doing and bringing to the table as well in this situation.
Right. Because I hear different kinds of stories. I hear that some people say things have got better, hospitals are not as crowded as they used to be, whereas I have one set of people who tell me, no, now people are presenting with stroke kind of symptoms and with heart attacks. So I wanted to listen from a physician's perspective, what exactly are they facing at this point of time?
So now it sounds like your concern is that maybe the virus isn't decreasing as it sounds like because people are coming back with more exacerbated symptoms that are more medically involved as well. And so you were hoping to get a bigger perspective of things.
Yeah. I don't know how much I should trust the news because they say they want to remove the shutdown. They want to let people out and continue their business. I'm not sure if that's the right decision because I feel like people will just start interacting with each other and the social barrier will just be taken off. And will that bring in more caseloads? Will there be more deaths? That really concerns me.
So you're concerned about where the government is taking things, if they're going too fast or if it's the right thing to do at this time. And you're wondering if other people or how people are reacting to that also, because, you know, no one knows exactly what's going to happen moving forward. So you're hoping that the decision makers are deciding wisely.
Right. I do want to go out. I do want to step out because it's been a while since I got some fresh air or even seen people, but in person, it's only through phones that I've been seeing. So I'm looking forward to it, but I don't want to be hasty and do it too fast before things are under control.
So it sounds like you want an appropriate time frame to be set up to open up the cities and towns so that even though you're looking forward to spring and summer, you're not in a rush for it to come too soon.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
So now I pick somebody. Is that, is there anybody else? It's just the five of us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
Yeah,
I guess back to you, Edwin.
Okay, listening.
So I'm not clear. Is the topic around COVID or is it
Whatever's alive for you.
Whatever what is?
Is alive, just whatever's on your mind. It can be.
vacation, travel is on my mind.
Okay, you're just thinking about travel and vacation getting away.
Because many plans have changed because of this COVID. So I'm thinking about planning my next trips and hoping I'll be able to take them, and all the friends and family that I'm supposed to be connecting with. My mother's birthday is May 1st. It's a big birthday, and I'm going to have to cancel my trip because it's not a good idea to go see her and my dad at this time. So, which is a big pity because I've been looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking of all your sort of travel plans and the emotions behind it, the anticipation and the, getting together with people and just trying to recalculate everything, maybe some disappointment that it's not happening.
Yes, the whole guessing game, when to buy airline tickets, how far in advance, should I do it or not? Is it a risk? Will I get reimbursed? Talking to people that canceled their plans in March, April, how far ahead are they trying to project to book them so that you can get your tickets? It's difficult to know. Hold on one second. Someone's at my door. Sorry. Yes. Okay, can I do it? I'm in a thing and then come back? Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Some of you know him. No. Yeah, so about being able to plan is difficult since you're not sure and trying to guesstimate when will ticket prices go up? Are they low now? Will they be lower later? So
just all the different logistics like pricing and strategies and all just thinking about juggling all that.
And then when you think about, since I'll stick to the travel theme, you want to make sure that worrying about remaining healthy. How are airplanes continuing to clean up, or the trains or the boats or Amtrak or whatever form of transportation you're doing. So I'm grateful, like Hertz Rent-A-Car has given me the opportunity to drive to work versus having to take the subway and the bus for the last 3 weeks. So I'm hoping they'll continue it for another month so that I don't have to be in the subway, especially since people say there are a lot more homeless on the trains. I mean, they were empty before, so that was a little anxiety provoking because too crowded is not good, but too empty is also can be lonely at nights and whoever else is getting on there with you. Yeah.
So there's you're just thinking about the rental car. I mean, Hertz is giving you a car, and so you're just thinking about the travel on the subway, and it sounds like you're hoping you can have the car to maybe do some travel with later, and just sort of juggling the concerns of being on a subway. If it's too full, that's a problem, but too few people is lonely, and so just juggling that too.
Exactly. So I guess I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, great. Speak to Diva. Divya. So, all right. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I kind of checking with myself. I have two things. One, I'm thinking of the practicality of talking about empathy circles, and then the other thing I'm saying is, well, should I speak about something more personal too? So I'm kind of juggling sort of between those two.
You're kind of a little confused. If you want to go a little personal, you're a little hesitant in that part. But at the same time, you think going beyond just the empathy circle and talking about yourself might help.
Yeah, it's I think of because I know that the people who are here interested in empathy circles. How do we move forward? So there's sort of a whole logistics, planning, thinking about it, sort of making the case for empathy circles, sort of like the educational part of it. So there's sort of that logistical part to kind of think about, and I'm kind of excited about talking about that. So I like the logistics and the planning of how do we kind of spread empathy circles, how do we get into the healthcare. So I do have some enthusiasm for that topic.
So because you have great ideas for the empathy circle, you want to share mostly about it and you want to talk about the logistic possibilities about the empathy circle, and you're very enthusiastic about it.
Yeah, so kind of it's not really a pet peeve. I know there's a lot of you, I think you're wanting to be psychiatrists. I don't know if that's accurate, but in the medical field, it's been the counseling and psychiatry has been sort of a patient, a therapist client sort of a relationship. And the client has got these problems. They come to the therapist, they come to the counselors, you listen to them, you maybe, give them some advice or you give them some medication or something like that. So there's a certain type of relationship. And what the empathy circle does is it builds on that, but it makes it more of a mutual empathic relationship. And I found that in therapy, you're only doing half of the empathic relationship. You're only listening. It's not, the person who is being listened to is also not learning to listen to others, to empathize with others. So that's sort of this next level that I think the empathy circle brings in, is the mutuality, the culture of empathy aspect.
Right. So you're basically telling the difference between how a psychiatrist works and how this empathy circle gives a two-way model compared to how a psychiatrist would do. Psychiatrist would just prescribe medications to a client, but in case of empathy circle, both the parties are going to be benefited, and that is what is motivating for you.
Yeah, and to say that, oh, the therapist is going to get heard by the client is like, oh my goodness, that's breach of ethics. That would be terrible. So it's kind of like a shift there, and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, though you think that there might be a conflict of interest when that happens, but you still think it's going to benefit in the long run to every individual.
Yeah, so for me, the empathy circle is about bringing this mutuality into with patients. So, if we look at that patient model, is that, they can have an empathy circle with their family, with their friends, for having that mutual support for whatever their issue is. And then the therapist, the psychiatrist is really for the really difficult cases, where it's kind of like the emergency empathy. But so much can be done just with, creating a better mutual empathic listening, a culture in the family, with coworkers, etc. So yeah, so that's sort of the case I'm trying to make.
So you have an understanding that a patient has problems beyond just himself. It could be his family, at work, and you think the empathy circle will actually help him cope with those problems before he actually reaches out to a psychiatrist to help him deal with his situation.
And part of psychiatry or even counseling could be to show the patient how to do an empathy circle. Say, this is how you do an empathy circle. Now take just as a giving them some medicine, is you give them this tool for using in their family, right? Or with their friends, or bring together a support group. So it itself is a form of medicine, I guess, in that sense, of healing.
So the psychiatrist, apart from his medicines and everything, can use this as an adjunct therapy, this empathy circle, to help his patients, basically.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Charmin?
Yes.
Did I already speak to you? I think I already did. Somebody else said.
I spoke to you.
Oh, you spoke to me. Okay, so I'll speak to you now. Fine.
Okay.
So I think I really appreciate whatever Edwin was talking about, this empathy circle, and how he should be adding it to a part of therapy in psychiatry. We do this to our patients. We add so many other types of therapies. So I'm sure even empathy circle will actually work when it comes to our patients, being we know what kind of psychosocial problems they come with. So I think this will really help, and it was a great point that he told.
So you are really optimistic about this empathy circle, and you're appreciative of whatever Edwin is trying to do to include more and more people, and you think this empathy circle is going to be a great platform for the psychiatrists and their patients as well.
Right. Like you and Neetu mentioned, you tried to get people to come for this empathy circle. I also tried, not just for the empathy circle, but I tried also for the mindfulness program, which is just 10 minutes. But nobody had time even for that. Nobody wanted to stop doing what they're doing and come and join for the mindfulness session either. So I think physicians are really, really pushing themselves to the edge at this point, trying to save the world, but I really don't know who's going to save them and their stress.
So you sound a little bit frustrated about the fact that physicians, they are not able to, maintain, they are not able to do a simple mindful exercise, which takes just 10 minutes. But you think that this is very important for their overall well-being.
Yes, I do. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
So, okay, I would choose Dr. Scott.
Dr. Nicholson, that is.
Dr. Nicholson, sorry. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm very embarrassed. Dr. Nicholson, can you hear me?
Dr. Nicholson, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, it's showing.
There we go. Is that better?
Yes, sorry about it, first of all.
That's okay.
So we actually already discussed about whatever we are feeling about the COVID thing in our own empathy circle, where Dr. Carlson was the facilitator. So I would like to say something really personal at this point. So at this point, since I have a lot of time to think whatever going on outside and inside my family, so I'm thinking about a lot of things at this point. I would just stop here.
It sounds like they're talking about you've felt that you've covered well the topic of COVID-19, and that now you wish to explore other areas that are more personal to you and or the family.
Yes. So I'm actually juggling in doing many works. I have so many thoughts in my mind too. I was trying to explore something new that I never explored. For example, I'm trying to learn piano, and also I just started gardening. These are the ways I'm trying to distract myself, but I do have a specific goal in my life. I'll stop here.
So it sounds like you're discovering or bringing into your life new tools such as gardening and piano, things that you've always wanted to do and never had time for. I'm extrapolating because of life circumstances.
But my specific goal is to be a physician, a good physician actually. So I'm a little bit worried about my future. I wish I could say it, that whether I would be able to achieve whatever I always dreamt of. This is making me a little bit anxious at the same time. But yes, I would stop here.
Okay, so it sounds like you're looking towards how your future will lay out in front of you, and you'd love to have that magic ball to be able to help tell you you're on the right path. But since you know that's not reality, you're very anxious about if you're doing what you need to do to get to your goals.
Exactly. But I'm thinking one step at a time. And I actually restarted whatever I was doing before. Like I always used to do yoga, Zumba. So I'm seeing that the current COVID situation, actually, it's giving me ample time to do something besides studying.
So you're looking at the positive side of what this COVID situation, quarantine has brought you. And that's to return to the things that used to balance you out and make you feel good, such as yoga and Zumba, dancing, which are all forms of exercises. So it helps you, besides just sitting and absorbing knowledge, you're able to get your body and mind as one.
Yes. And also I found this empathy circle really effective and working for me, to be honest.
So it sounds like you're enjoying the empathy circle.
Yes. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. I guess Dr. Carlson, since you're back.
Hi.
I also am loving the loving not the consequences of COVID-19, but I do enjoy the fact that, for example, my father is quarantined in the house and he has no excuse but to arrange his library of 7,000 books and papers. And so I'm finding this fantastic. Every day I call in and check in like an executive coach. How are you doing? What did you work on today? What's happening in the desk? And this, so he's having to tell me every day what he's tackling.
Okay, so there are many downsides to COVID-19, but you're trying to reframe, some of the challenges of COVID-19 and find growth in it. And one area of growth is in how you're coaching and how you're observing and witnessing your father, take on this very challenging big project of organizing his books. And so it's kind of funny, but also true, and there's something nice about what has come out of COVID-19.
And to continue along that theme, I've never cooked so much since I've lived in New York City. I'm like, wow, this kitchen actually can do quite a bit. And I've been buying more cooking accoutrements, and we'll see if we keep using them all. But that's also been fun to have to be able to do that. What's less fun is the housekeeper can't come over. So I'm downside. I'm remembering all the cleaning of the house that one has to do.
You're a girl who really wouldn't say she knew her way around the kitchen, but she's taken it on to a whole new level recently during COVID-19. And damn it, the cleaning lady can't come over, so I'm also tasked for this. So let me find the growth in that.
Yeah. And then I guess finally, kind of what Charmin was mentioning is, getting back into that gym routine. I am a specialist of paying for the gym, but not attending the gym. Well, now I found a 15-minute workout, so I have no excuse. They've reduced it to 15 minutes, so I have to do something. And so I've got into that and got into walking more. And since I'm driving now, at least for the last couple of weeks, I'm not walking as much. So I'm also forcing myself to go out with a mask and walk more, which is good, which I'm enjoying because we're having good weather.
So you're finally paying attention to your body and caring for your body and valuing the health of your body. And you're instead of just paying for a gym, you're stopping and reevaluating and taking care of yourself.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, it's my turn. I don't know how who would be best to do. I mean, I don't know how the sharing has been. Can I pick anyone, or is it pretty even, or? Okay.
The Nitu is next.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
I'm probably next.
Okay, okay, Nitu. So I'll speak to you. So earlier, Edwin was talking about the process in the empathy circle, and how in psychotherapy, it's usually, there's a hierarchy. There's a fiduciary relationship where the counselor or the therapist, provides empathic or reflective listening to the patient. The patient is not actually, they may see the benefit of it, but they don't practice it in the session in most types of psychotherapies. And so this is unique because it's a volley back and forth of empathy from, one person to another. But in this place, there is no hierarchy. It's all, we're all on the same level. We're all mutual. And no one is the expert. And well, each of us, when we're the speaker, we're the expert of our own experience, of our own journey, of our own minds and feelings. And then the listener helps us become more expert at understanding ourselves. That's my understanding of it. But there's something even more interesting that I think I've started to pick up on is there's the third listener, or the silent listener. And that silent listener, or the third listener, is even going to another level. What I've noticed that comes up for me when I'm the third listener are things around morality. I start to notice justice or injustice. I notice more about compassion or self-compassion, about what's right and what's not right. Those are just some interesting things that I'm starting to become aware of.
Okay, so you're saying that with a psychiatrist and patient relationship or therapist and client relationship, that it's generally one way where the therapist provides listening and the client is benefited, but it's not a mutual volley. And at the same time, it helps, like in an empathy circle, the speaker is the expert of his own mind, of his own emotions and his ideas, and then the listener is able to help that person become even more of an expert of that. And then the other aspect is the third listener, the people surrounding who are listening. They get to reflect on the injustices and social divides and become more compassionate based upon what they're listening to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it. So I'll just, in the past 2 days, we had some examples of that I can recall where I got really attuned to, for example, in my role as a leader, I experienced the emotion of guilt in the session, which had to do with something that was particular to Brookdale, that I wouldn't have normally, maybe I wouldn't have normally experienced it, but by participating in the empathy circle, it allowed me to notice that guilt and just, be able to be okay with it, and then think about, what I want to do with it, with that emotion. So that's what when I'm talking about kind of morality, I'm talking about, when, recognizing that, other people may have had certain wishes and desires that I was playing a role in trying to help fulfill those, and then finding that they were not fulfilled, and having some appropriate level of guilt. And I think about, like, in COVID-19, that, for example, leaders of hospitals, they might, I would hope, would maybe have some guilt about, the PPE situation, or maybe I wish our president would have a little guilt.
Okay, So what you're saying is that this empathy circle helped you to confront feelings of guilt that you may not have realized you had until you did the empathy circle, and that's based upon your own personal experiences working in Brookdale to try to help others achieve their goals, achieve their dreams. And when it didn't go in that way, the empathy circle gave them the platform to share that with you, and that's where your morality came out and you faced that guilt. And you also think that leaders in the hospital or other physicians, ED physicians, would also feel that based upon how they can protect their colleagues, and of course you hope that the president would also experience guilt once in a while.
Yes, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'll speak with Edwin. Or
Listening.
listen to me.
Yep.
So one of the things that Dr. Carlson touched upon is sharing this empathy circle with family members, and he mentioned that he had a hard time bringing up the empathy circle with his mother, and I actually feel that my family would benefit so much from this, but I also have this hesitation of bringing it up because I just think they would find it silly or laugh at me and just not take it seriously. Or maybe that's just my own way of stereotyping how they are, but it's one of the things I've been thinking of.
Mm-hmm. So you've been thinking of how to bring the empathy circle into your family, and you're seeing sort of the challenges of doing that they might think it's silly or just might not really understand that. And so you're just sort of thinking about how that could happen.
Right. And I think this is one of the factors that can come up with different cultures, because even in psychiatry, various cultures view therapy and psychiatry in not such an understanding way. They shun it or they disregard it, and then they feel it makes you weak. So this is part of one of the things I was wondering about is how empathy circles can infiltrate into other cultures that don't necessarily embrace being as open with your feelings and truly listening to someone rather than just, being who they are and expressing themselves normally.
Mm-hmm. So you've been thinking about different cultures may not value empathy and therapy, and
Mm-hmm.
like how do you sort of bring it into you're just seeing the challenges of bringing it into other cultures as well. So there's your family as well as different cultures may not value this.
Right, exactly. And another observation I've had is that I've noticed, besides the professional aspect of therapy, even when you talk to your friends and you have the sort of back and forth of listening to their problems, your immediate instinct is to give advice. That's just one of the things that friends and peers do for each other. And I don't think most friends, stop and think, let me just listen for the sake of listening. And the truth I've learned is that friends don't really take each other's friends' advice anyways. If they're talking about, hey, you should break up with this person, they're not really going to do it until they come to the conclusion themselves. So I think it's important for people to realize that reflective listening is actually more important than giving advice.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing you were looking at the family, the cultures, and now you're thinking of like friends listening to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that usually maybe friends don't listen to each other. They try to give advice and they don't really take the advice. So just seeing the importance of even within friends of just mutual, kind of a deeper mutual listening.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I feel fully heard.
Oh, okay. Let's see, I guess I'll speak to Dr. Nicholson, if that's how to pronounce it. Nichols. Oh, okay, let me just change that here. So, yeah, this aspect of empathy in the family, I have a little story I wanted to tell that that like my family is very conservative, you know, they're Trump supporters, and, you know, was more on the progressive side. So sort of this political difference. And I had gotten interested, you know, years ago in empathy, and I kind of wanted to bring this into the family, and it was a real challenge. Like, it's just hard to sort of find the entryway of sort of bringing it into the family. It was a real challenge.
So you're discussing the difficulties in addressing the topic of empathy in a family situation, and you gave the example of yours, which is a more conservative family, when you're more on the less conservative side of things, and so you're looking at that challenge.
Yeah. And what happened, the big breakthrough happened at Christmas, maybe at 6-7 years ago. And a conflict started between my sister-in-law and my mother. My mother had hidden some gifts, you know, for the kids, just put them behind the chair. And the kids had found them and started tearing everything up, kind of digging into them. And my sister-in-law got really angry about that. It was going to upset the whole flow and structure of the Christmas day. And she kind of lashed out at my mother and said, "Oh, well, you did this, you're responsible for this." And then my mother kind of lashed back at her and said, "You know, how dare you talk to me this way? I'm not going to take it." And then they really started going at it.
So you provided an example of where, you know, things started to just take off, where the family was supposed to have a joyous occasion and conflict occurred because children who are unpredictable managed to mess up everyone else's predictable plans.
Yeah, and then that conflict started, and then I saw this and I thought, "Uh-oh, I'm Mr. Empathy, I better do something." And so what I did was just, I started listening to my sister-in-law. I said, "Oh, okay, I empathize with her. I hear you're really upset that the kids are getting into it and you feel that, you know, my mother is to blame for it. Is that true?" She said, "Yeah, that's right." And then I did the same, it kind of shifted to my mother and said, "I hear you're really upset that, you know, you're being blamed for this, you're being demeaned. Is that right?" She said, "Yes." And then I went back and forth, empathically listening to each side, to a point where that kind of brought the tensions down once they started feeling heard. And then I asked them to start doing empathic listening with each other, and they said, "Oh, okay, we'll do it." And I sort of facilitated that. And yeah, so then they started actually doing it, and I had to kind of help to kind of keep them on track, you know, but they actually did it. Yeah.
So you're sharing an example of how in your family you were able to use empathic duo circle to show the technique in a punctual way, and they were able to hear you and able to respond and actually de-escalate the situation. So your willingness and enjoyment of this practice was able to help out in a family conflict.
Yeah. And it was scary. I mean, stepping into that, I was like terrified. It was like icicles through the core of my body to step into the middle of a conflict with empathic presence, because all the other family members had gone hidden in the corners. And then once the empathy, you know, we started doing empathy with mutual empathy, it turned into an empathy circle that all the family members came in. It turned into, you know, 6 or 8 of us in an empathy circle doing mutual empathic listening. And then it was almost like the conflict was like an onion, the different layers, you know, kind of got peeled away. And then the core was that my sister-in-law said, "Oh, I don't feel like I belong in this family because, you know, everybody's more well-to-do. I come from a poor family. I don't really feel accepted." And then my father, you know, kind of stood up and said, "You know, money means nothing to me. You know, I came as a refugee here. I love you. I appreciate the grandchildren you've given, you know, brought to the family," and so forth. And then they got and hugged in the middle of the room. So, so anyway, that was like, yay. Turned into a
So
success.
it sounds like your family had a powerful experience in the end, that they were able to get to some deeper rooted issues that were lingering in the air that had never been fully addressed, or people didn't know how to fully address them. And so they were able to, through this empathy learning system, to share and to come to a nice ending where people were able to express their true fears And they did
Exactly.
so in a safe environment. And I think a nice resolution came in the end.
Exactly. And then I said, oh, by the way, this is empathy. And they said, oh, this is pretty good. We're okay with this. And then after that, we started doing sort of ongoing family empathy circles, you know, to kind of address issues. And we've done them over the years. So it was sort of, that was sort of the gateway that kind of opened the door. And there's still challenges. Now my sister and sister-in-law are, you know, not really talking to each other. So there's still challenges. So it's like, how do we, you know, deepen this to, you know, to create more of a culture of empathy within families, within society, is sort of the challenge.
So it sounds like you're looking for ways from this personal family example and how through the years you've been able to use the empathy circle. It doesn't resolve all problems. And so it's not a catch-all, it's a constant work in progress. And then on the bigger scale, you have to constantly figure out how can we make this accepting and opening to other people that then the ripple effect could occur.
And to build on Stefan's Trump comment is I would like to have an empathy circle with Trump, Pelosi, Schumer, and Pence. And if we could show it, model it at this high level, I think it would sort of trickle down. It would make it okay. So with the activist group I'm working with, the Extinction Rebellion, they're very, you know, political street activists. I'd like to set up empathy tents, which we have in the Capitol Mall, and we will demand that the politicians, the left and right, talk to each other in empathy circles. And that's one of the ways of, you know, politically, you know, kind of getting this practice out to society.
So it sounds like you're taking steps towards that process of opening it up and hoping the politicians can hear it so that we create a more empathetic family circle, society, and country and culture worldwide.
Yep, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess Neetu?
Yes, I'm here. I can
Hi.
listen.
So I'm listening and learning from everybody who's done this before. It's been very interesting. So I think I'm going to try and do for my next monthly meeting an empathy circle. So I'm going to hopefully do you guys justice and replicate it appropriately. And I was just thinking I have to call the secretaries to see if they can set up a Zoom account for me through administration so they don't cut us off after 30 minutes so that we can have a proper, I don't know how long this is lasting, but a proper hour at least for the team to get together and work through the myriad of issues we have.
So it sounds like you want to take this opportunity because you see the extraordinary benefits of the empathy circle and incorporate it into your monthly meetings. And you just have to go through your administration to coordinate a Zoom account so that you can easily have your the people attending your meeting be a part of it and gain benefit from it as well.
And I'm hoping that from there, they will take it into their homes because a lot of them come from different types of backgrounds and we have different education levels. And so I think this might be a good way to begin the process into the community if we as a team do a good job of completing the empathy circles message.
Okay, so you're seeing this as an opportunity for people to hopefully bring this into their experience from the empathy circle at work into their own homes and spread it into their community so that it's a way of integrating it into different cultures and education backgrounds.
And then on the personal side, I guess instead of always having COVID-19 cocktail Zoom, we can also have an empathy Zoom maybe with some different friends and out in the community, or maybe mix and match, just like Divya was saying, you know, not always the same group of people, because Zoom is often very difficult because you realize when you're with friends in actual same place, you can turn to the left, turn to the right, turn in front of you. If you get bored, you can have separate conversations and then a group conversation. Empathy circles forcing you to have a one-on-one conversation with one person with the others, as Dr. Carlson was mentioning, listening as a third ear and, reflecting also. So I've been thinking about how to improve Zoom cocktails, because we can't have these breakaway sessions because you want to be with everyone, but you don't. So that's been interesting.
So you're wondering how you can create something similar to Zoom cocktail, because the difference with an empathy circle and a cocktail is that you have breakaway groups, including smaller circles, whereas generally in a Zoom party, you have a large group so that everyone can be involved, and that's part of what you do in a group of friends. So part of the challenge will be to encourage your Zoom friends to get into separate circles so that they can actually participate.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll choose Divya. Yeah, I think everyone addressed some of the challenges with introducing the empathy circle into your friends' lives and family lives. And I really liked the way Edwin did it, where he started in a slow trickle where there was a conflict involved, and he used it almost in a way that they didn't even realize it was happening, and then suddenly everyone saw the benefit of it and actually wanted to participate. So I think that would be one way that I could potentially use it with my own family.
So we are appreciating Edwin for sharing his story, because I think it gave you an idea how you can incorporate it among your family members and actually feel a little optimistic that it would work that way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and given my siblings and my cousins, we're all very different people, and growing up, there's always a lot of conflicts in that regard. So I think had my parents actually known and understood something about this empathy circle, that they could have really helped us work through our problems. And I'm hoping that I would be able to use that one day as a parent myself.
So I guess you, your siblings, and your cousins all think a little differently, and you've always had a lot of conflicts with them. You were just hoping that your parents were introduced to something like this empathy circle, and they had grown you up with all this when you were a child, so that it would have been easier for you to actually have a better relationship with your family. And you're hopeful that you would be able to do it and give a better life for your child.
Yes. While I understand that in a therapy session as a psychiatrist or a therapist, that it's sort of a one-way street with listening and giving advice, I do think that like even a psychiatrist should encourage people to use empathy in their own homes and among the people that they associate with, that give them the challenges that they have in life, and teach them to work their way through it. And I think that should be part of one of the lessons as a psychiatrist or a therapist.
So you think everybody should start using this empathy circle, even though there's a lot of science available for psychiatrists and there's so much other things available for therapists, but you think that this is going to be the primary key to solving a lot of issues?
Yes, because one of the biggest, most important parts of conflict resolution is, of course, listening and truly trying to understand the other person's problem. And I think a lot of people do have problems with dealing with conflict and confrontation and frustrations, and it's difficult for many people, no matter what type of education they have or socioeconomic background. It doesn't matter. This is something that as humans, we are faced with every day.
So regardless of what age they are, what background they come from, you think this is one primary problem that most of the world is facing, and there's a conflict of resolution that they have, and these kind of empathy circles actually help them cope with it. So it should be incorporated in everybody's life.
Yes, I feel fully heard.
Thank you. I'll choose Dr. Carlson.
Okay.
So just because everybody was talking about incorporating this empathy circle in their families, I was just wondering if it would ever work out in my family. And you know, I'm from India. And just the thought about, or even terminology such as empathy, psychiatry, psychology is so looked down upon. In fact, when I told one of my aunts that I'm going to become a psychiatrist and I'm going to start from July, she said, "Oh my God, this is why I didn't want you to go to US. I knew you would come up with something so weird." So that's the kind of this one I received from my family. So I really doubt I would be as successful as Edwin was, or even have that slight hope as much as Neetu is having today.
You're of Southeast Asian origin, and culturally, you recognize that, you know, talking about your feelings and your thoughts and focusing on those things, they're given short shrift in your culture, because there's so many bigger concerns about having a roof over your head or food for many people in India. And you think practicing an empathy circle would be almost an impossible task. And I heard a change in the tone of your voice as you in that moment where you maybe felt a bit, I maybe even heard a little, I don't know, it sounded a little hopeless in a sense of whether you thought you might be able to conduct one with and use it in your family.
Right. I think in Indian culture, there is a lot of hierarchy which comes into play. Nobody wants to look vulnerable. So that's one of the reasons that they would never share any of their personal experiences or even how they feel. They would never throw it out publicly, especially men and especially the adult population. They never want to show the youngsters as to what hardships they are going through. So that's why I feel empathy circle is a very tough thing that I would be able to do in India.
You're further reflecting on this and you're noticing that the barrier is maybe in the patriarchal hierarchy, patriarchal dominating structure of Indian culture, and the risk of expressing your own thoughts and emotions and problems would expose them for being weak or vulnerable, and you just don't think that is something that most people would be willing to lend themselves to.
Right. And over the past few days since we have been doing this empathy circle, I feel much better. Like Sharman was saying, it actually makes me feel good. The past 1 month, because I've been stuck indoors, I was pretty upset, pretty sad. Now I feel like there is a purpose for me. I am doing something, I'm helping people, and I'm being valued. And that actually makes me feel so much better.
So you're finding that the empathy circle is helping you to be more self-aware of your own mental states, and also giving you a existential sense of purpose in your own life right now, as you were kind of drowning and trying to figure out, you know, how to stay above water and how to find a purpose right now.
Right. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
So, there are many different types of psychotherapies out there.
Who are you speaking to?
I'm going to speak to Dr. Nichols. There are many different types of psychotherapies out there, and they all have a different theoretical basis. One of in the lingo, the jargon of psychotherapy, there's something called the common factors of psychotherapy, and one of the common factors is the relationship between the patient and the therapist, and that seems to mostly involve empathy. So almost all psychotherapies at their base, include this very critical, connection and pay attention to empathy.
It sounds like that you're looking at psychotherapy as a whole, and one of the foundational powers of psychotherapy is the empathy factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've found is, and it's quite sad actually, that most therapists, psychiatrists, mental health professionals, never get that foundation in learning active listening and reflective listening. Instead, they go straight on to the theoretical constructs of these different specific psychotherapies without anyone helping to teach them, and thinking that these skill, that empathy is just such a basic skill. It's not even doesn't even require time and effort, when it's actually the most important. In most research, it's the most important aspect of any psychotherapy, and it's the hardest skill to learn. And one of the most effective. Yeah.
It sounds like you're looking at the power of empathy and the fact that it should be so easy and innate in humans. We kind of lost that ability to do it. And so, especially in the field of psychiatry, where you assume we would be using it, we haven't been. And I think that's to our detriment as a field.
Yeah. Edwin had sent me an article that had reminded me of my early training in psychotherapy. Spent many years doing this, and it reminded me of Heinz Kohut, who is a psychoanalyst who wrote a book, who's the father of something called self-psychology, which incorporated a lot of Carl Rogers' work in humanistic psychology. And I just love the phrase of what he calls empathy. He calls it psychological oxygen.
So you're reflecting on how Edwin has been able to remind you of one of the reasons you like this field so much, and your interest in the field is linked to the philosophy and the history behind the theories. And that one of them is Kohut, and another one is Carl Rogers. And the key thing is that in order to exist and breathe, you need oxygen to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, and that brings me round circle to COVID-19. Our patients are gasping for oxygen, and the coworkers who are both caregivers and also suffering from the sequelae of the consequences of COVID-19. They may need traditional oxygen, but they certainly need psychological oxygen right now, because in caring for these patients, minute after minute, they lose their empathy, their ability to empathize. They get fatigued, or some people call it compassion fatigue, or they get a deficit. They need to be recharged, and that's this idea we've been talking about here.
So you're reflecting on the importance of the ABCs, both physical and mental health. You know, airway, breathing, circulation, and airway is the #1 problem here with the COVID-19 virus. And you're reflecting on if like burnout, and burnout is fire and you need oxygen to burn fire. And if you're suffering from burnout, you're not going to be able to help provide any empathy or support or oxygen to anybody else.
Yeah, you added a lot there that wasn't there, but I like it anyway. I like to.
It's where my mind went. I'm sorry.
But you weren't very congruent to my personal
Sorry.
expression. You know, that's the other thing that we haven't talked about yet. But what I just did there is I honestly told Dr. Nichols that she didn't get me. And it didn't work for me when she didn't get me. Even though she was trying, and, you know, it was a little funny, but, you know, you know, think about that in your life, you know. Imagine, you know, when someone just keeps repeating themselves over and over, you know what that is? That's because they don't feel heard. And, but this was just a microaggression from Dr. Nichols. But these things happen all the time to much greater degree. And what I find that happens in my own life and others is what's called the carryover effect. You know, when you just don't, like, you feel that someone's just not getting you, and or you know, you keep having to repeat yourself. Well, then you just have to keep moving forward until you can get some sense that either someone else has digested it or you've digested it. And so people then, you know, and then it escalates, you know, particularly when you have anger and you're trying to express it. You're trying to get someone to just fucking understand what you're saying, and they don't acknowledge you. And so, you know, it boils and boils and boils.
Okay, so you did not, it sounds like you didn't feel heard properly on the last session, on the last moments. And so you want to make sure that that is something that doesn't happen, and that the team members here, or the group, the circle, is able to let people know when they're not accurately being reflected, and that in doing so, they're validating their feelings, but they're also validating the feelings of others, because you want to make sure that the process is being followed properly, and that the goal of the reflection is to be supportive and to be sure that you are understood.
Yes, yeah. You know, I mean, I was making a joke there to emphasize kind of this third level of kind of the morality of all this, that, you know, for example, in the COVID-19 situation, a lot of people in our hospital and healthcare are very angry, okay? And these are, and you know, a lot of people don't think anger is should be an acceptable emotion in the workplace. And, you know, and they stuff it. They try to use time to let it pass, or but anger sometimes is very useful because it gives us energy, you know, to fight for the things that we believe in, and it allows us to clarify what we really believe in life and what we're going to defend with our life. And you know, so we should never. I just think, you know, I've been reminded that I need to be able to be open to expressing all emotions, and the empathy circle helps me reflect and find perspective on my own emotions, so that I can effectively express them to navigate through my relationships.
So it sounds like you're reminding yourself the importance of all emotions, one being anger, and what anger is one that's not often appreciated in the workplace, or is often demonstrated also in the workplace, because it's a taboo, and people are often feeling they have to control a lot of different emotions. And so the empathy circles helped you to redefine how you might present your feelings and emotions when dealing with colleagues and patients.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
This will be the last ones if you.
What if we give it to Charmin?
Okay, if
She
you want to
hasn't
speak.
spoken in a while.
Yes. Yes, I'm listening, Dr. Nichols.
Oh,
Oh, do you want?
I wanted Charmin to speak.
Okay,
Or
then
talk.
get a reflection. Reflect back what you just heard her say. What you heard Dr. Nichols say, just reflect back. And then when she reflects back, you can say, I feel fully heard, and then it's her turn. That's a way to quickly pass it on within
I
the
see.
structure.
Oh, okay. Charmin, I defer to you. I would like to hear more from you.
Oh,
And can you just reflect back what you heard her say?
yes. So Dr. Nichols, she's deferring her opportunity to talk. She wants to listen more to me.
And then
Thank
you just
you.
say you feel fully heard, and then it's Charmin's turn.
Okay, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, thank you. So can I choose? Okay, Edwin?
Listening?
Yes, can you listen to me? Yes. Actually, at this moment, I feel like it's getting more and more interesting at this point. We have been working, actually we worked last year at Brookdale Hospital, and we worked with Dr. Carlson, but I think he opened up in this empathy circle a lot. So I find it really interesting that people are opening up here in the empathy circle, and they're expressing their deeper feelings. And I could feel like it's really interesting, and I really want to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. So you find this interesting. You feel like that Stefan is opening up more and in this empathy circle, and you find that interesting. You're just wondering where this can go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding the cultural issues and diverse background that Divya was sharing, to be honest, I tried to invite more people. We have a separate group of the med school that I went together with some of my friends, and I invited them. I told them about the concept, but I felt like they are more struggling with the treatment perspective of the COVID-19 patients, and they are not that much interested to get involved in empathy circle.
Mm-hmm. So you were wanting with some of your colleagues to have them be involved in the empathy circle, but you're finding that they're more interested in specifically, treating, supporting the, people who have COVID or 19, and so they're not so interested in the empathy circle. So that's just one of the challenges that you're seeing.
Yes. So I actually back home, I chose a different background to pursue in my life, because I have never seen, including in my families, that they want to get help or they are seeking any help for their mental illness. So they always go to a psychiatrist when they cannot take it anymore. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a patient from the Southeast Asia, I guess you can subconsciously think that they're in their worst situation. So that's why the empathy circle, it's kind of like, it's a very new concept, and they are not wanting to embrace this new concept.
So from the culture you're from, it's like if someone goes to a therapist or a psychiatrist, it's only when things have gotten so bad that they're willing to go. But this idea of like an empathy circle, just for, before things get so bad is kind of like a different concept or a new concept, and maybe not so accepted.
Even the people who are here in United States for a while, Like I'm saying, the people that from my community, they're still not getting it, to be honest. But I think if once they learn about it, once they know about it, and if they see the benefits, then they will be more and more interested.
Yeah, so people really need to see the benefits of it and get kind of familiar with it, and then they'll be, you feel they'll be more interested.
Yes, and I'm really very optimistic about it.
So I was feeling some optimism that it can kind of spread, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. I felt fully heard.
Okay, oh, great. So we're going to take a minute. We can just sort of quickly go around, debrief, and then we'll go to the full circle. Actually, let me close this room, but it'll take us about a minute before we're brought into the full room. So yeah, so thank you everyone for taking part in this, and really appreciate it, and excited about the content and everybody's enthusiasm for this. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll see you in the main room. Okay, the others will be joining us in a minute. It takes about a minute for everyone to get back. Yeah, here we go, popping in.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I think, is that everyone? I think it might be, is there one more group? I'm not seeing Martha.
Seifel and Allison. Oh, there's Allison. No, there's Seifel. Good.
Oh, there's Martha. There we go. Okay, so welcome back to our full group. We want to just go around and give everyone about a minute if there's any sort of reflection on things that came up, or just anything you'd like to share with the full group. Maybe Bill, you could just select people to maybe model it yourself, and then select people. Or
Sure. Sure. Well, as always, I'm very touched by the personal experiences that everybody, and I really feel that, I learned such a great deal, and my son was in the circle with me, and I'm learning things about him that I didn't, quite know, nuance of feelings and depth of feelings, and it feels good. It feels good, and I feel, so. Nitu? You're muted, Nitu.
Sorry about that. So we discussed a lot of things that are personal to us, issues regarding our family, and how we can bring the empathy circle into that and incorporate it more into our lives. So I feel really enriched from that, and I have some ideas about how to do it now. So I found today's session to be pretty effective.
Great, thank you. Charmin?
Hi. So, I'm really happy that everyone is sharing their personal and deepest feelings they're going through based on the COVID situation, and also in other aspects. We have discussed about how the empathy circle can help in solving other issues that might be going on in the community. We are. I think this empathy circle is going to the upper level every day. So I'm really happy that this thing is working really good for us.
Great. Okay. And I see a woman whose label is Stefan Carlson. I assume you're not Stefan Carlson. Please introduce yourself, and if you can give the reflection. Thanks. You're muted. Oh, we're having problems with your audio? Oh, there you go. Oh, you were on and then you just kind of muted again. There we go.
Oh.
Oh, no. Okay.
Sorry, I was, my phone wasn't accepting the Zoom, so Dr. Carlson lent me his iPad.
Gotcha.
Well, this is my first empathy circle. I found it very interesting. I think we had a good group. There was different topics that were touched upon, and the power of the empathy circle was interesting, and all the different links that we could do with it. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Carlson?
I'm looking for Marta. Marta, she put a fire under my ass and, kept saying, come on, find somebody. So I kept thinking, and I'm so glad that I found this group that I pulled together that we're working at Brookdale, and we've just been sharing and doing some empathy circles and learning a great deal about ourselves and empathy circles and how we can bring them to healthcare workers. So I'm glad that she kept pushing me.
Great. Thank you. Saiful?
Yeah. So this is very helpful in regards to express our feelings, and I think a lot of concept will come up regarding how we can help the community. We are in different places, different countries. We can individually also in our leisure time or according to our community's members, we can do our separate weekly or even bi-weekly sessions since we are comfortable with, and we can grow these things. Because sometimes for technical issues, if a lot of people comes together, it might get frozen, something like that. So I think we should take initiative to expand it more to the community levels.
Great, thank you. Bob?
I am so grateful to Gregory, James, Dean, and Marta for being my dear friends in this group. As we struggle with solving the COVID-19 problem, as we struggle with solving the climate catastrophe problem, it is groups like this that empower me to keep at it and stay with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Gregory?
Thank you. I came in late. I was impressed with how things kind of came together. We, in our breakout, were discussing such a wide range and everything meshed. Topics like physics and music and the way that networks can function, and you wind up with more power than you would think any collection of individuals could have, was very moving and also encouraging. And as Saiful was mentioning, I think it's hopeful that we can have maybe local groups as well as this larger group. And this seems really powerful and hopeful to me.
Great, thank you, Gregory. Allison?
I feel very grateful for this empathy circle. It's my first one online. I feel like, because right now I'm sort of in high need personally, this call has gone towards kind of bolstering my own sustainability, and I feel almost in a way my own immune system, so that when I do start to feel stronger, I can then do more in my local community. And I especially appreciated being on the call with people in New York, like Saiful, being in London, UK myself, feeling a special kinship with New York, and also with Ben up in Sheffield. So thank you.
Sure. Okay, Zach?
Hit the button, there we go. Hi, yeah, I think my takeaway here was the thing I think the most concerning for me was that it would kind of put a damper, like just hearing a lot of kind of, you know, negative emotion come out and everything. And I was worried that would affect me in a way where I'd be kind of in a worse mood personally. And then finding out that, you know, when you are expressing yourself to other people and people are hearing other people, that it's actually way more empowering. And I came out feeling like way more exuberant about all of this than I thought I was going to. So I'm really grateful for everyone sharing and opening up.
Thanks, Zach. Great to have you here. Ben?
Yeah, I just found all sorts of different topics came up, like all sorts. Like usually there can be a few, but this time there were loads. There's like 4 or 5 different main topics. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Ben. Thank you. Dean.
I'd like to thank Bob, Gregory, James, and Marta for sharing with me today and listening to what I had to say. It was a beautiful little group, and we worked together well. And it's always good to see that you're not isolated, even in the isolation that we're currently undergoing, and that there is more to us than meets the eye, and we should live through the heart more than the head less. So I thank everyone for understanding that and hearing me say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Welcome. And James.
So my evaluation summary is, it's great to see people from all over the world, very internationalist. The people being from San Francisco, and, which is a place I should really visit someday. So it sparked in my head like a film I saw called Electronic Awakening, which was all sorts of Haight-Ashbury and Moon Tribe music in San Francisco, near the Golden Gate Bridge. So it inspired me more to be more involved in the ecological movement and yeah, just to push for a better future, because the way we live in it's unsustainable, and that's a well-known term, but so we need to live more within the planetary limits and circular economy, where we also don't have a planet B neither. So
Okay, great. Well, living in there, yes, you all should visit San Francisco. Everyone needs to come to San Francisco. That's true. James is absolutely right. Okay, Marta?
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very happy I didn't get to, you know, listen and share it with Zach, but I was very happy that Zach was here. I think it's great when we bring our families. It's weird and brilliant. I had my sister on a call like this once, and it was just, yeah. It was a lovely share today. I'm taking away the importance of music and connecting with people like nodes in different places, and singing for our plants as they grow.
Great. All right. Divya.
I would like to thank Dr. Carlson, first of all, for thinking about us when he was looking for people. I noticed that after every session, people tend to open out a little more than they did in the previous session. I'm really happy to hear the Brookdale side of the story, but I'm also curious to listen to everybody else's story. So I wish in the coming sessions, the rooms are kind of mixed and matched, and I get to hear other people's story as well. But thank you so much for this.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for coming. Glad to have you. Edwin, I'll send it
Yeah,
back
thank
to you.
you. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, our group was very, very delightful. You know, we're connecting with some of the healthcare workers and, you know, talking about the doctors, psychiatrists, looking at how to spread empathy circles in that area. So that's really quite exciting for me to look at the possibilities there and actually be actively working on it. So everyone now has taken part in an empathy circle. So the very, the basics of an empathy circle is pretty simple. Just get 4 people together, do some, mutual active listening, and you can all actually facilitate that, but it's really a lifelong endeavor to get kind of deeper and better at this, and be able to have the challenges of, if you're dealing with certain conflict situations, etc. And so that takes a little bit more training and learning. But the process is very reproducible. You can go to empathycircle.com. There's introductory videos, how to become a facilitator. And so those are kind of resources that we can kind of spread this practice as widely as possible. We have some upcoming events, circles. In half an hour, we have an empathy, our facilitators group. We meet, and if you're wanting to facilitate empathy circles, you can share your experience. We give you support. And so that's in half an hour at the same location, if you can come back for that. And then we have tomorrow, if you're part of the Extinction Rebellion, or if you just want to take part in another empathy circle, we have a circle that starts at the same time as today. It's about the different values for Extinction Rebellion. We're on the 3rd principle, which is about the need for regenerative culture. So if you wanted to check that out, you're welcome. And then again, we meet for this group next Friday, and there's some other sort of private circles that we're doing too in between that. So I think that's it for right on schedule, right on time. So I want to thank you all for this warm connection here, and taking the time to take part in this. So thank you very much, and hope to see you next week or in the facilitator circle. So
Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.